Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling. Shall we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today, where it looks like it's Carnival, which, you know, we've celebrated twice already, I think, in Animal Crossing. So, you know, if you want to see all the going-ons about that, you can go back to my previous episodes and see what that event is like, because, you know, we're over it by now. Sorry, Parvey, you are more like a passé. Oh. So it's unnecessarily rude for no reason. Parvey's awesome. But yeah, we're here to vibe out, and you know, basically, I can't deal without my daily soapbox, I suppose, for being able to talk about random stuff in Animal Crossing. So hello everyone, right now in Fawnhallow, 6:05 PM on Monday, February 20th, 2023. With Pave, of course, here. Oh, you know, I was actually, I can't believe I'm still like thinking about this, but if you don't know, there's some like controversy, I suppose we'll get. No, not controversy, is not really the right word, I suppose, necessarily, but stuff going on with Genshin Impact, where the newest character Dia was going to be released, and long story short, she's probably going to be very weak, and there's a lot of questionable decisions within her release, and you know, it's sort of like, what's going on? It's sort of like a big reminder. It's like, oh my god, this company's actually a company trying to make money at the end of the day, so sometimes we'll participate in, you know, practices to try and get you to spend money and all that. Except for this time, now it affects me, because I'm just like, this was one of my favourite characters. How could this happen? I'm still thinking about it. Sorry, but a little bit of a pause here. Sorry, Pave, we're just going to promptly ignore you. Yeah, I'm still thinking about it, because it's the most annoying thing. Because now, you know, my initial reaction to it was like, I can't believe this is happening, you know, I'm going to completely skip this character. Like, if you don't know how Genshin Impact or any sort of gacha game works, what happens is they have like limited time events where you can spend in-game currency to try your luck at, you basically sort of like play slots to try and get a character, or get an unlock, or get a XYZ or something. That's basically how the gacha model works, and the in-game currency is something you can purchase with real game currency, and then, you know, of course, it's sort of like using those tactics to try and lure you in and be like, hey, you know, you don't want to miss out, you should try and get this stuff, you should try and get this, so XYZ. And normally, you know, you might be surprised I play a lot of gacha games, especially because I tend to be someone who doesn't, you know, get much excitement from that sort of thing. From gambling necessarily, I don't really get that high. I'm much more like, I want to take safe bets, I suppose, rather than like risky bets or anything like that. You might be surprised at why do I play something like that, and it's not because I don't get a thrill, I suppose, necessarily from like participating in gacha mechanics. So I mean, maybe a little bit, I'm only human after all. But it's not, it's more like, in fact, I feel like I'm pretty restrained, but I know when to, but I know that I can sort of beat the system by actively playing with a game if I enjoy the game, or if I enjoy the story, that sort of thing, while not falling prey, I suppose, to the mechanics which are at play. But this is the first time, especially while playing Genshin, where I've just been like, I feel like I'm falling prey to the mechanics. I'm just like, I can't believe I've waited, because this character, like, with, you know, I'm sorry, you know, this is going to be a very self-indulgent video. I mean, all the videos are self-indulgent, let's be honest, but this is even more so than usual. This character, basically, the TLDR is, she's a character who was released, we've seen her in the story for about 6 months. She's a pretty cool character. She's reasonably popular. I wouldn't say she's outrageously popular or anything like that. But basically, she's probably going to have a kind of weak kit. It's not even just weak, it's a very sort of messy kit, where things don't like really make sense together. And she's not a limited character, she's being put into the standard pool, which you might, so she's permanent, I suppose. You can pull her potentially at any opportunity, which you might be like, that's great, but it also means that, you know, if you think of it from a business perspective, if imagine you're a company, who are you going to put more effort into, like a character who is limited or a character who's not? Because effectively, it's not that much different, I suppose, if you're not a whale being someone who spends a lot of money in the game. The difference between a limited character and a non-limited character is not that crazy different. It's just you have a chance, I suppose, of putting a permanent character multiple times, but even then you probably won't get that many multiple copies. And anyway, she's like not limited. She's in fact permanent, and, you know, being shipped off with a very strange kit after being hyped up, I suppose, for 6 months for this entire thing. And I can't help, I can't help but be like, I can't believe this happened, you know? I can't believe I saved up 6 months of in-game currency for, okay, no, I didn't save up all the time, to be fair, but I spent very little in anticipation of his character, who I was so excited to get, and now she's coming out, I'm just like, I don't even know if I want to get her anymore. Now, you know, that was my initial reaction, you know, first time I saw the news and all that sort of thing. Like, even when things which are very common in games, you know, there's leaks. you can see like their kits and that sort of things. Even then, when it seemed like she would have a bad kit or whatever leading up to it, I was like, I'm still gonna pull for her or anything, but I don't know. now the actual announcements come and gone, I feel like it feels like an actual nail in the coffin where I'm sort of just like, wow, this is actually it. This is just like, this character's just completely forgotten about, I suppose. And it's just like, oh, you know, I'm kind of disappointed. I might skip her. But then I was thinking about it last night. I'm like, I can't believe it. I'm falling prey to the tactics. I'm like, what if I just fully committed to this character? You know, pulled the character, pulled her weapon, which is not something you ever do in Genshin. Or rarely do, I should say, in Genshin. And fully just like invested in her. Because I really genuinely like this character. Did you just throw confetti at me? That was amazing. I don't know if you did or not, but and I'm just like, I'm falling prey. But this is what they want, you know. This is how they get their money. I'm not going to spend money on her or anything like that, but I'm like, this is how, you know, I'm falling prey to her tactics. And I suppose, like, you know, part of me is like, every time, you know, despite it's very human to fall prey to the tactics, because, you know, they prey on human emotions, and at the end of the day, I am a human. I feel those same emotions, even though it's very natural, I suppose. I like to think I have a certain level of awareness about them in the first place, so the fact that I managed to dodge a lot of things to praise on, I suppose, it's not like I necessarily take pride in it, but or maybe I do take some sort of like self-indulgent pride in it, being like, oh, you know, and you can't get me with your adverts, despite the fact that almost certainly I have been gotten by like consumerism, like adverts and that sort of thing, and similar sort of effects which have like been tailor-made to get me to spend money or what have you. Despite the fact I've almost certainly fallen trapped to those in the past. I still, I suppose, maintain a certain level of, I'm not sure smugness is the right word, but sort of like confidence in my own abilities. Maybe it's like Dunning-Kruger or something where I'm just like, oh, you know, you can't get me with that sort of thing. So when it actively happens in a way that you notice, I'm just, I can't help but internally think to myself, being like, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe I'm feeling this draw. Like, is this how people normally feel when they're like tempted? Is this what temptation feels like? To try and open Pandora's box? Where normally I would be perfectly content with having Pandora's box sit there on my mantelpiece and just ignoring it. You know, polishing it up every time, dusting it, keeping it clean for when days go by, but letting it remain closed, I suppose, and its secrets held within. Is this what it feels like to feel that temptation to open it? To be like, hey, you know, go all out, that sort of thing? I'm like, I don't want this sensation. Get the sensation out of it. I want to make rational decisions and judgments. You know? Despite the fact I am still quite an emotional person, I'm still trying to make my judgments with a logical approach to the emotions in the first place. But you know, when you just have all emotion, it's just like, oh, you know, everything's just thrown out the window, you know. Things can just happen in like a split second if you're not careful. And I'm just like, no, that cannot happen. So here I am, you know, being like exploited, I suppose, by marketing, I suppose, in the end. It was inevitable. But it happens all over the place, you know. I mean, that's just sort of like how businesses end up operating. Is like, oh, we want to make big profits, we have to do whatever we can to, you know, get the profits in first place. You know, you do some consumer's reputation, oh well, as long as it, you know, all evens out in the end, that's all that matters, which is, you know, quite a pessimistic, I suppose, view on life, and or depressing view, perhaps you might look at it in the end. And you know, I guess it kind of is. There's not really much of a bright side to it. There's not like a silver lining being like, oh, all this very tailored marketing which kind of exploits your human emotions and that sort of thing. It's like, it's got a bright side. It makes you like, oh, feel better about emotions. It makes you more in touch with your logical side or something. It doesn't really do that. It is what it is at the end. It is to lure you in. You know, things like the algorithm, you know, on TikTok, on YouTube, Twitter, to make you see things that only you engage in or you want to engage in, and then it becomes like an endless sort of like cycle, an endless feedback loop. It's weird. And it's weird to think about, because technically I'm making YouTube videos. Technically I'm contributing to that. I mean, anytime you make any sort of post on social media, I suppose, or interact with social media at all, you are interacting with it, whether you like it or not. It's very sort of pervasive around the world, isn't it? In our world, not around the world. Around the world kind of sounds like I meant globally. I mean, I guess it is, but I kind of meant like within your own like local world. And it's weird to think about, and even weirder to think about how often you fall prey to these sort of things. Because there's a thing, if you don't know, like, a lot of the time adverts, I mean, you might got this feeling as well, where you, like, reflect back in your life and be like, and been like, wow, there are very few times where I've seen an advert and been like, alright, I'm going to go out and buy that thing, you know, that seems great. You know, you see an advert for, like, I don't know, like a new shampoo or something for like specifically for dandruff, and you're like, I don't have dandruff, I don't know why I'd buy that. Or you see like, oh, there's a new like lawnmower, like an advert, be like, I don't need a lawnmower, why do I need that? But the thing is, all the adverts are banking on, really, like what they're mostly banking on is not the fact that you're going to sit there and be like, I need to get a lawnmower now, let's go and buy one. Some people are going to be like that about some of their sales, but for most people, what they want to do is they want to get their company name in your mind. So when you finally get to that point where it's like, oh, I need to actually pick up some shampoo, I'm starting to get dandruff, and you're in that the shampoo aisle, I suppose, in your local like cosmetic store or whatever, and you're looking at all the names, you pick up the one which you recognize a name brand of because you saw the advert for it once, even if it's subconsciously, and then thus they've locked in that sale for you. It's like, whoa, you know. When I heard that, and I don't remember when I first heard about that, I was like, whoa, that's actually crazy. Because there's definitely times I've absolutely fallen prey to that, where I just like stand in and I need to buy something I've done like either no research in or I'm not very experienced in the first place, and be like, I don't really know which of these to get. Okay, I'll just get the name brand because I've heard of them before. If I've heard of them before, then probably they're good, right? And obviously that's not necessarily how it works. I mean, maybe it's how it works, you know, depends how, I suppose, why you've heard of them. If you've heard of them because of word of mouth popularity or whatever. Or if you're like a scientific researcher studying which one has the most beneficial effects, then yeah, you probably have a good reason to be like, yeah, I'm going to pick this one up. But, you know, most people aren't really like that anyway, aren't they? Well, maybe everyone else is, and I'm the weird one and I'm not. But still, it's just like, learning about these sort of like tactics is like, one, it's crazy, I suppose, to think about in the first place. But two, it's also, you know, nice that you can, by becoming aware of it, you can sort of like distance yourself from it, I suppose, when you get to that scenarios. And, you know, next time you're like, oh, I need to go buy a lawnmower, instead of being like, oh yeah, I saw that advert for like Ace lawnmowers or whatever. I don't know if that's an actual company, by the way. It's not intended to be. If it is, on like the side of like Twitter when I was scrolling through or something for a sponsored post, now I'm actually going to like put research in and be like, oh, maybe I don't need Ace lawnmowers. They're not like, either like maybe we've got a bad reputation, or maybe like we're not exactly something that fits your needs, you know, they're a more expensive option when you can instead go for like, I don't know, meadow mowers or something, and you're like, whoa, this is the perfect lawnmower for me, and you know, you save money that way. But then it goes like another level deeper, you know, where it's just like, oh, you know, but where have you found out that information about like meadow mowers or whatever? You probably like, I don't know, searched onto like blogs who like specialize in lawn mowing, and you know, you saw a video about like some person who's like, I've been mowing lawns for like 60 years and here are the top 10 lawn mowers or whatever that I reviewed, etc, 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 you know, because at that point you're just like, okay, well, what if this person has been like sponsored or whatever by the lawn mowers, or has like inside, you know, tangles, I suppose, with the actual thing. I don't know, you dressed up in festival stuff in your home, but fair enough. Obviously you might then point to a law, at least I don't know if it's a law in all countries, to be perfectly honest, but at least certainly in the UK, that if you are sponsored by someone or like a company and you are involving yourself with a project or showing off a project, product, not project, then you have to, of course, you know, disclaim it somewhere, you know, like in the title of a video, etc, etc. But it happens, I'm sure, all the time, especially now with like social media, etc, etc. You know, hashtag ad. It just says that you have to say it somewhere. It doesn't say that people need to necessarily pay attention to it or needs to be all that visible. Like, it's a thing. I mean, that's like kind of like what the whole profession of being an influencer is, isn't it? It's about like getting these sponsorship deals, and then like you make a post on Instagram or whatever being like, whoa, this, I know, cream just makes my skin feel so like supple and soft and young and youthful again, you know, cleared up all my pores or whatever. And then, you know, your audience will be like, whoa, that's amazing, I gotta get my hands on that cream. And thus the advertising cycle continues. But if anything, I suppose it's more of an interest, you know, despite the fact that, you know, we're very much entangled, I suppose, entrenched in the system as consumers, it's kind of interesting to see how, I suppose, these tactics have changed throughout years. Because certainly when you're younger, it's very much, oh, at least when I was younger, and I don't necessarily know your age, so I suppose that doesn't really fit. When we're younger, when I was younger, when people were younger, it's been like newspaper adverts, like TV adverts, radio adverts, etc, 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 right? You know, that's just like the best way to get like your product out there to the eyes of the masses. But nowadays, you know, that's very much a sort of like I'm not going to say redundant way of advertising, because it's not redundant necessarily, but nowadays definitely the way to go through social media, isn't it? That's why there's so many like sponsored posts. That's like inevitably like I don't know if you've ever used like Reddit or Twitter back in the day, no sponsored posts or anything like that. Facebook, etc. It was just literally what it was used for. It was just used as a social connecting site. So you just followed your friends and you saw what your friends posted, etc., etc., etc. But then, of course, as it gets bigger and bigger, more people are on it. It becomes like a platform for marketing, I suppose. In the first place, now companies are on it, like buying ad spots, being like, hey, we want to, sell you some stuff on this post, or they start making their own account and start tweeting out things, being like, oh, it's like this refreshing taste of, I don't know, bubble fizz or something like that. I'm not really good at making out company names off the top of my head, hey. And then you're like, oh, maybe I can go maybe you subconsciously choose bubble fizz next time you're in the convenience store, things like that. And now I think we're on another level deeper, I suppose, because that's a very sort of like millennial approach, isn't it, to like social media and advertising, or maybe like older than millennial. I don't know what generation above millennial is, but nowadays we're very much into the Gen Z and Generation Alpha, I suppose, sort of advertising things where like the brands kind of need to be like cool, right? Remember back in the days when people loved Wendy's Twitter because they were just like savage, they were just like, oh, they constantly like roasted people, I suppose, because credit to their social media manager, I suppose. They were like one of the first ones to do it, to have like, instead of having like a friendly, happy corporate vibe, I suppose, they had a lot more bites to what they posted, and then they got social notoriety that way. And now everyone's trying to do it. Now everyone's now trying to be trendy and cool and hipster, or hip, I suppose, with it. But now it's becoming very sort of lame. When you can, it, I suppose, intrinsically. If you use social media in any capacity, you all know it when you see like a corporate post versus when you see like a post from like your friend or something. You'll be like, you see a corporate post and you're like, it's got that language where it's like trying to be hashtag relatable or whatever. But it just sort of like, it makes you feel Or maybe it doesn't, to be honest. Maybe that's just me personally. And it's weird to see because now it's very pervasive. I didn't mean to walk back in. Pervasive through Twitter, essentially. But it's like, it caused like a resurgence in Tumblr, because Tumblr apparently, as I've heard, the one reason that Tumblr is not very profitable as a platform is because it's incredibly hard to market to the people on Tumblr for whatever reason. Mainly, at least, they're not as susceptible to the old style of marketing of just having adverts or whatever. That's what I understand. To be fair, I just read that randomly somewhere, and if you want to put your tinfoil hat on, you might be like, whoa, that's conspiracy, like spread by advertising companies in the first place to lure Tumblr users into a false sense of security, so they think we're not as susceptible to advertising. So when something finally pops off, you really get the money going. I don't really know if that's true or not, to be perfectly honest. I've got literally no clue. But you can certainly see it in the way that things are advertised on Tumblr when the corporations get on Tumblr. It's just they are absolutely unhinged. Like, to be perfectly honest, because I suppose you kind of had to match a market you're trying to appeal to, right? It makes sense in the first place. But, that's why a lot of people went to Tumblr, I think, in the first place, is the fact that there was a not distinct lack of, but considerably less of these, like, advertising, corporate-esque posts. That's kind of what people mainly want in, like, a social, like, internet environment. I mean, you see it now all the time with Reddit, because you can get, like, Reddit accounts which, like, buy... You can just, like, straight up buy Reddit accounts with, like, loads of karma being, like, a sort of, like, point system, I suppose. And then you can buy one of those accounts and then just like post something, like if you're advertising a game, being like, whoa, check out this cool clip from a game, and you put the game in the title or whatever, and then it's like, whoa, it's popping off, it's get so much like social clout, you pay people to get robot accounts to go like upvote the post so it rises to the top. I mean, it's just like sort of advertising. It's like I'm not sure insidious is the right word, but like it's sort of like covert advertising, I suppose. Well, you don't have to necessarily disclose that it's something sponsored, because it's not technically sponsored as long as no one finds out, sort of thing. And it's like a wink wink, nudge nudge, money under the table sort of deal, I'd imagine. Again, I don't work in like marketing or advertising, so I don't really know how true that is, but it feels reasonable, doesn't it? I mean, how many times have you like if you don't use Reddit, replace this with whatever social media, I suppose, of your choice, where you've seen something and you've been like, why is this like a thing? This is just like, it kind of feels like very advertisement. I mean, you look at the comments and they're all just like, whoa, this game looks amazing, what is it? Or like, oh man, I can't wait to play this game, etc. Of course I'm saying games because I play games. That's mostly what I check Reddit for. And it's like, and you've just been like, what? It's probably an advertising, campaign. And sometimes you feel susceptible to it, myself included. And it's like, whoa, I don't really know what to make of that, I suppose. It's as I say, ignorance is bliss. When you don't know what's going on and you just fall susceptible to it, you're like, oh, cool game, and that sort of thing. But when you do know what's going on, you realise you're falling for it. You're just like, damn you, Platypus. There you go, Phineas and Ferb reference. You thought they died out years ago? Absolutely not. Phineas and Ferb references are here to stay. Anyway, not sponsored by whatever. If I was sponsored by Disney, that'd be incredible, I'd say. But I'd like to think that if I was sponsored by something, I would probably disclose it. One, it's a legal right, and two, like transparency, I suppose, in most of these sort of aspects. But luckily, I don't have to worry about that because I'm making Animal Crossing videos for fun. Anyway, if you have been watching, I suppose we're going to round up this episode here. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares are greatly appreciated. Twitter, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again. But for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye bye for now.